Yeah, I was like, I don't, what the hell? Hello, Lynn.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'll get us on screen in 1 second.
Excellent.
Just taking a note here for my. All right. Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah, certainly. How are you doing, Yolanda?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It was so wonderful looking through all your stuff from your dinner party.
Oh, yeah. We had so much fun. It was a really great event.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me so happy. Oh, good morning, Kate. Welcome. Where are you calling from, Kate? Hey, Mirasol.
Okay. Download and run Zoom. So you can hear us, but we can't see you. So, there you are. Okay, got it. Let's see. All right. Hello.
Oh, hi, Lynn.
There's Christian. Here he is.
Hey, Christian.
Hi.
I'm all like...
We're both sharing the same laptop screen here, so.
Well,
how's it going?
Good, good, good. I'm really excited for the call today. Thank you all so much for being on it. And again, my apologies for the Zoom link. I'm still like baffled. That's just
the one you resent is working, so apologies not needed. This is bright here.
Good morning, Mirasol. Good to see you this morning.
Howdy, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
Thank you for joining the call. Kate, where are you calling from today?
I'm coming from Noblesville, Indiana, and I just turned the sound on, so I just started hearing you guys. So excellent timing. And if you were talking to me before, I'm sorry I looked lost.
No worries. Well, welcome to the call. Thanks for being on it.
Thank you so much.
We better mute. Let me mute.
Perfect. Yeah, I think just to go over a couple of quick technical things, it's really much better if we all mute our audio so that as people are speaking, we can all hear them. That's just kind of like one best practice. I'm going to heavily facilitate the video roundtable, which means if you want to say something or if you have a comment that you want to chime in on, just raise your hand and then I'll call on you to be able to help you know when to mute or unmute your audio. So I'm really going to heavily facilitate. If you raise your hand or something, or some people do join by phone and not by video, you can also leave a comment in chat. So I'm going to leave the chat open. So if you want to leave a comment, you can also leave it there. So just to kind of show you all of that. One second, I'm going to put, here's the agenda link, just in case anyone needs it right now. Agenda. Wonderful. And then I'm just putting all of our links that we're going to be looking at today in the chat so that they're all in one location. Great. And then, hi there. Who's the 717 number?
Hello, how you doing, Jason? It's me, Jamil.
Oh, hey, Jamil. Great to see you. Great to see you, Dan. Welcome. Let's see, and then our desired futures survey. All right, one last little thing. I'm gonna put one more link up for everyone just so that we, again, have everything in the chat for us. Desired Futures Survey. There we go. Perfect. So those are basically the three big documents we're going to be reviewing today. One is just the agenda. The second one is Symbols of Our Desired Future, which is a Facebook album of symbols that have been collected through different dinner parties across the country, which is really exciting to finally have that. The other one then is Our Desired Future Survey, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about what that is later on in the conference call. Welcome, Jenna. Good to see you. Hi there. I know Maya definitely will be joining us today. I know a couple of other people will be as well. I also want to get started because I think we have a lot of wonderful stuff coming today on this video roundtable. And it's a really packed agenda, and I want to make sure that we, at the end of this first part, so that, just to kind of give you a framing, the first part of our video roundtable will always be the work of this group. It's kind of the relationship building, it's the digging into some content, it's updates about dinner parties, our partnership with Youth Media Reporter, a variety of other things that we're doing all kind of simultaneously. So this first hour is just that opportunity to have that conversation, continue building the relationships and moving that stuff forward. The second half of our video roundtable, or not really the second half, the last 30 minutes of our video roundtables every single time is going to focus on an organization. And it's going to focus on either an organization or a practitioner. Right now, they're all organizations. But an organization and or practitioner that is doing something in a local context that is really, really innovative and exciting, and that potentially has an opportunity for scalability across the country. But we're not going to talk about that last part. It's just an opportunity to plant a seed. It is literally just focusing on something that is happening within a very local context in order to plant a seed for hopefully something to spring nationally. But that is to be determined what that actually looks like. I'm not like being super conscriptive of what that means. Rather, I've had a chance to talk to some incredible people who are doing really, really awesome things. And I think we all could learn from what they're doing within their locality. And then hopefully that gets us thinking differently, gets us thinking in a more bold and bigger way. And then we can start applying some of those things in the second part of 2017. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an understanding of kind of how the video roundtables themselves are constructed. So that's just a little bit of the video roundtables and just what they are and what we're going to be doing. Very specifically today, we are going to be getting some updates from people that have hosted dinner parties. Yay! I'm so excited because this is our first video roundtable of 2017, and there were incredible dinner parties that happened, including the one that Apple Shop hosted the day after the election. So, I just want to give space for people to like share updates and literally stories, not even really updates, just stories, things that touched you personally about your dinner, and things that may have touched your community about your dinner. So there'll be some space for that. There will be a little bit of a very short update about just communications in general, what's working, what's not working, and how we're just going to streamline a couple of very simple things. So just to kind of talk very, very briefly about communications. Then we're going to talk about symbols of our desired future. And so that's really going to be more of a focused conversation. As you can see, if you open up your chat, there is a link to a Facebook album that has all of the symbols of desired futures. So one caveat is I believe the album is public and you may not need a Facebook login to check it, but you may not. I'm hoping not, but maybe. And then we're going to be going in a little bit into Youth Media Reporter. Maya's going to give a little bit of a report back about what is Youth Media Reporter and what is the special issue that we have coming out. we're going to talk about this survey that about our desired futures. I'm going to give a little bit of context for that. And then we're going to have a closing circle, part 1. I do know some people need to leave at the hour mark, so I like closing at the hour. And then we transition and everything goes over to Christian for the Christian and Lynn for the last 30 minutes. And then we close out that last little 30-minute piece as well. So that's kind of an overview of the agenda overall. If you want to see it, it's also on your chat. Just click the link. Before I get to the opening circle and introductions, are there any brief questions that you have about the agenda? Perfect. I got another kind of housekeeping tip just for people. I know some people are on call, so just to kind of name that, some people are on their phone. So if you want to speak, just type something into chat, either directed to me or directed to everyone, and I'll call you. I'll call on you. This is going to be heavily facilitated in order for it to make the most sense for everyone. So we're going to start with opening an opening circle. And so if you could please share, I'm going to call on you by name or by Zoom ID. So if your Zoom ID is not your actual name that you want to go by, please share the name that you want to go by. So that's like part 1. Part 2 is going to be, please share an affiliation that you have. It can be any affiliation. It does not need to be your JOB. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it's that you're a parent or a brother, or maybe it's that you're a really good friend. But any kind of affiliation that you want to offer into this opening circle. And then the last one is another word for desire. So again, your name, if what I call you is not the name that you want to go by. An affiliation, one, anyone, and then another word for desire. And so I'm just going to call names in order to facilitate this, and then I will be muting my audio in between. So up first, I'm going to kick it on over to Yolanda. Yolanda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Yolanda, and I'm with Austin Public and the Austin Film Society. And one of my affiliations is I am a mentor. So I have a group of young, they're like middle school, high school aged from my church that I spend time with and mentor. And I'm really starting to see the value of that recently. I'm seeing some fruits of that. Another word for desire, I'm going to say hunger.
Oh, sorry. I'm now kicking it over to Kate and Oakley. Thank you, Yolanda.
I didn't know you could unmute me. That's kind of cool. So I'm sorry if it's really loud. We actually have some people playing music in the back, and it's at least loud on our end. But I'm Kate Fowler, and I'm the director of the Appalachian Media Institute at Apple Shop in Whitesburg, Kentucky. And this is...
my name is Oakley Fugit, and I'm with Appalachian Media Institute in Whitesburg.
Oakley is the real director. I just listened to him, but I think there's an echo. Sorry. I was thinking of an affiliation. Of course, I'm with Apple Shop, but outside of that, I'm an independent filmmaker and photographer. Do you have an affiliation you want to share?
I mean, besides Apple Shop and IMI, mostly I just make splash films.
And another word for desire is hope. Do you have one?
See, husband go with craving.
Craving. Cool. Thank you all. We're excited to be here.
Excellent. I'm going to kick it now over to Lynn and Christian.
Hi there. I'm Lynn Warshafsky. I'm the founder and executive director of Venice Arts. Another affiliation is being one of less than 2% in the world redheads. Real redhead. And another word for desire, nourishment. Christian.
And my name is Christian Rozier. I serve as lead filmmaker here at Venice Art. Another affiliation I have is a proud New Orleanian. I'd say for me, a synonym for desire is intentionality. We're so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm now going to kick it over to Kate from New Orleans.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, I'm in Noblesville. Gotcha. I was thinking, wait a second. I am Kate Chaplin. My affiliation is with Gal's Guide to the Galaxy. We're a non-for-profit multimedia educational site, and we promote feminine wisdom in all of its beautiful shapes and sizes and forms. And I'd say my word for desire, passion.
Great, thank you so much, Kate. I am now going to kick it over to Mirasol.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. So let's see. I am the director of community media for the Austin Film Society over at Austin Public, where Yolanda is also from. We're just in 2 locations today. Affiliations, I am a film scholar, video editor, and cultural worker. And another word for desire was also passion. So took the words right out of my mouth.
Thank you, Mirasol. I'm now going to kick it on over to Jenna.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna, and I am one of the directors of Hype Youth Media here at Muhlenberg College, and on the editorial team for Youth Media Reporter as well. Another affiliation, I imagine, would be that I also direct our intergroup dialogue program here on campus, which encourages students to create space for open conversation dialogue around difference in identities and experiences. And another word for desire, I think maybe I'm being particularly pragmatic today, would be goals.
Thank you so much, Jenna. I'm now going to kick it on over to Dan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dan from the Rise Youth Center in Richmond, California. I'll share a personal affiliation today. I'm affiliated with 3 amazing small children who I love very much. And I would say another word for desire, vision.
Thank you so much, Dan. I am now going to kick it on over to Maya.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maya. Can you guys hear me? Yes, okay, cool. My name is Maya Overstreet. I work with Jason for NAMAC. We're producers for NAMAC. We are producing the State Dinner Party project, and I am guest editing our collaboration issue with YMR. And I'm also a second-year student at SF State University. That's me. Oh, and my word for desire, or desired features, is unity. That's my synonym.
And thank you so much, Maya. I'm now going to kick it on over to Novak.
Hi. Hello. Hello. I'm Darcy. I'm the executive director of NOVAC, which is the New Orleans Video Access Center. Hello, fellow New Orleanians. And I'm actually in our Baton Rouge office today. We now serve New Orleans and Baton Rouge. I was like, how can you have an affiliation other than NOVAC if you work at NOVAC? But I also serve on the board of a local alternative school, and that's something I've been working on. We're trying to get alternative accountability standards for kids that are coming in from a variety of situations. So that's what I've been thinking about lately. And my word for desire is carnival, because it's carnival time in South Louisiana. And so this is like one of our last responsibilities. Parades start tonight in New Orleans, and we will not be in the office the first part of next week. And I desire that intensely. So, this is Jillian.
Hello, I'm Jillian Hall. I'm the Baton Rouge Programs Manager with NOVAC. My affiliation outside of Novak. I'm from Austin. I used to work with Austin Film Society, actually, so hello, fellow Austinites. And my word for desire would be, you guys stole all the ones that came to my mind immediately. I'm going to say necessary. Desires are necessary. I don't know. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to kick it on over to Spy Hop.
Let's go first.
I'll go first.
All right.
My name is Laurel. I'm the marketing director at Spy Hop. Another affiliation, I have a blog called Wild Westish. It's about being outdoors and drinking cocktails and coffee. And the word for desire would be crave. I don't know if that was said. We were a little late.
And I'm Matt Mateus. I'm the program director here at Spy Hop. And just like Novak, I another affiliation outside of Spy Hop. That would be my main one. The other one is I something to do with music. So I'm just super embedded in music and serve on a couple boards that promote that with youth. And I'm a film composer, and that takes up sort of some. I don't think I have extra time, but it takes up some of my time. So maybe my word would be yearn.
Thank you so much, Matt and Laurel. I'm now going to kick it on over to Jamil.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jamel Alexander. My affiliation, I'm just a community organizer, servant leader. I serve with the Aspen Forum for Community Solutions as a senior fellow. And another word for desire for me would be just love.
Thank you so much, Jamil. I'm now going to kick it off to Laura Deutsch.
Right. Hey, everyone. So I'm trying to do the phone and the video thing and moving around a little bit. So sorry I'm not on video today. I'm from Philadelphia, and I guess that's my primary affiliation. I'm also connected to a youth media network here, Philly Youth Media Collaborative, which I'm excited. We're having kind of a reconvening the steering committee today to get back on track with that. I'm also kind of a media maker and a teacher. So my word for desire, I'll say celebration. I think it's yeah, I'll say celebration.
Thank you, Laura. I am now going to kick it on over to the 503 number.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
My name is Elisa Barrios. I'm the Director of Education for Open Signal, formerly known as Portland Community Media. And I am affiliated with being a filmmaker, and I think the other word for desire would be belief.
Thank you so much, Elisa. And I'm now going to kick it on over to the 267 number, 267.
Hi, this is Ariel Taylor from Philly Cam. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I just joined the call. The question is,
any affiliation that you want to offer into the space, could be your job, could not be your job, but any affiliation, and then another word for desire.
yeah, my another word for desire would be wanting.
Thank you so much. Did I get everyone? Anyone I miss? Excellent. Seems like we have everyone. Wonderful. So I now want to just kind of open up the floor a little bit and hear from folks about their 50 State Dinner Party project updates. We've had a number of dinner parties. We had dinner parties in Philly Cam had a dinner, Austin Public had a dinner, Apple Shop had a dinner, Portland Community Media, now Open Signal, had a dinner, and so did Novak. You all had dinners between our last video roundtable in October, at the end of October, and now. So I would just love to open up the floor to anyone that wants to share a little bit, a story from your dinner. All right, go ahead, Darcy.
I'll just say what we did. It was lovely. Luckily, November is great weather in New Orleans, so we actually hosted it in our courtyard in New Orleans in the Bywater, and we were able to partner with another program, the Edible Schoolyard, that has a ProStart culinary program at a local high school in the Treme. And so the kids from that program joined us and actually prepared a meal for the dinner for everybody. So we didn't do a potluck style, but we had a meal prepared by kids in their culinary program. And we invited kids and their adults, chaperones, mentors, partners in work from Novak programs and some of our high school programs, from Louisiana Youth Voices Unfiltered, which is a youth juvenile justice advocacy and media arts organization that now has a radio show on a low power FM station in town, from the Young Design Agency, and from Big Class locally. And we had a lovely outdoor meal and shared experiences, and that in itself has already resulted in collaborations, which has been nice. Some of the kids through our program have been appearing on the radio show of Youth Voices Unfiltered and crafting some media pieces for them. So it's already resulted in some great collaborations, so thanks.
Yay, that makes me so happy. Yolanda, I'm going to kick it up to you.
So we had our dinner at the end of last month, and we actually hosted it here in our public access television facility. So we hosted it in our largest studio, and we partnered with two other youth organizations, one called Young Journey and the other called Latinitas, that focuses on youth and media. And but it was really cool because we were able to add this additional component where one of our film clubs that we host at a local charter school called Austin Achieve, the kids who are predominantly 9th grade and 10th grade, they were able to come here and be a part of the production and actually film the dinner and like handle some of the equipment that we have here with one of our instructors kind of facilitating and coordinating like what type of shots they should get and when they should be filming. And it was super awesome. It was such a great experience for them to kind of come and have this like professional and be a professional creative and be a professional filmmaker. And the response that I got from the faculty at the school, they were like, the kids were so excited. They felt like they were professionals. They felt like, you know, they were handling this equipment and in this studio space, and it was just really great. And we also had some live interviews in one of our smaller studios, and some of the kids went in there and, you know, talked about how cool it was to participate in the dinner and, you know, be around people with so much diversity and people of all different ages and backgrounds and just being a part of it. And it was really cool to just see like their reaction and how special they felt, because, you know, they were coming to do their first production, and I was like joking like, yeah, you guys did your first gig, you know. So it was like really exciting for them, and I think that that was one of the more powerful stories that came out of our event.
Thank you so much, Yolanda, for that. That was really beautiful. I know we have a couple of other folks that had dinners. Does anyone want to share their stories? Yeah, Kate.
You unmuted. Sorry, technology. So we planned a dinner to coincide with the beginning of a workshop that we were hosting called, what did we call it? I can't even remember now. It was 2020, Our Desired Futures in 2020. And it was a workshop with this amazing artist, Sean Starowitz, who lived in our community last year and recently took a job in Bloomington, Indiana, and left us, which was tragic. But he came back, and we were doing this wonderful workshop that was about community asset mapping and using our historical artifacts of our past, like our family photographs and some of our treasured items, to kind of visualize how we wanted to use community assets to build out our economy for the future. So we planned this dinner to coincide with the beginning of that, and it also turned out that it was election night, and the night after the election, actually, and I think many of us thought that the election was going to go one way, and it went the other. So we had this like pretty formal structure planned for the dinner, and we had the toolkit, but we ended up just kind of like winging it in many ways and using prompts that were with the toolkit, but also expanding on them to kind of address questions that the young folks in the room had for their elders who may have voted in support of the current administration, or things that they were working through after the election. So it was a really powerful potluck with, I think, half the space were youth and half the space were older community members who came together. And one of the most powerful things was just seeing people kind of bridge an understanding. I think a lot of our younger generation felt really strongly one way, and they were able to start a very civil dialogue with their parents and community members about what had happened, and also start thinking critically about the fact that they're moving into an age where they'll be voting in the next election, and they'll be making the decision about who's coming in. So it was really powerful, and we were really grateful for it, and also really grateful to Jason for being so flexible, because we had this one idea and then this thing happened and we totally changed directions. Do you want to add anything?
No, really, it's just kind of interesting because because I missed out on the election of 2012 because they I registered the vote, and like for somehow they lost it, so I didn't get to vote then. So it's interesting, you know, getting to go with somebody who like also was able to vote for the first time, and you know, like all the polls were predicting the election to go one way, and then just like watching everybody like, wait, hold on, something's up. So really, it's just getting. You know, so like it's nice, like instead of everybody being like devastated, like after the election didn't go their way, you know, just be talking about like, you know, like why do you think it like went this way, you know, and you know, for better or worse, like you know, the rural votes, like I made this election. So you know, it's just kind of like interesting to discuss people with that, you know, like a lot of people, you know, like when they think of like the election, like they thought people in California like would be deciding it, you know, they thought all these places, but it's actually the rural communities.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Kate and Oakley. I really appreciate that perspective, and I kind of want to highlight something before I kick it over to either Laura or Ariel to talk a little bit about Phillies. But one of the things that my hope and goal, and I know Maya shares this intention as well, is specifically around making sure that these dinners are actually able to be responsive to a community, that this is actually not about a national agenda. This is really about a tool that has been created here locally in San Francisco and in the Bay Area, that we were able to scale in this kind of national way to help facilitate, inspire cross-generational connections and conversations. And that while there are very specific things and activities in the toolkit that people can do and serve as inspiration to make that happen, really the only crucial thing to the dinner party itself is, are there youth, adults, and elders there? And are you talking about desired futures? Like literally, that's the only two things we really care about. That's it. All of the other stuff is important and helps us further collective work, but that is not the goal necessarily of the dinner party. The dinner party is about relationships and about conversation and about being responsive. And that I think is really crucial in understanding what this toolkit is. Because I think a lot of times from national organizations, there's toolkits that get created and you're supposed to follow it by the letter. And this really is not about following anything. It is about what is happening in your locality, and how do we help support you, realize what you want to do, and then our job is to figure out how that connects back up. That's what Maya and I are here to do. So I want to kick it over to either Laura or to Ariel to talk a little bit about the dinner that happened in Philly. Laura or... There you are. Got you, Laura.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know if anyone can hear me. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we held our dinner back in January. It was January 13th, a Friday night. And we also did it at our public access facility in our education and youth space. So we'd had about 30 people in attendance, and there was a team of 4 of us who did the kind of the planning and the facilitation, and it was a mix of youth leaders and then program staff. And we definitely kind of used some of the elements from the toolkit, and then created some of our own opening icebreakers and own activities that we thought would work better with our group. So yeah, like Jason said, I think it was really helpful to have some things to fall back on and think about the structure, but then also think about, for us, it was really, we wanted to offer kind of a relationship building and networking opportunity for everyone that was coming into this space. We had been having more youth media collaborative gatherings, and it's kind of been a while, almost over a year since we have. So this presented a really nice opportunity for us to bring in some folks who had been regularly connecting with us, and then totally some new people as well. And what do I want to say? Yeah, the one activity I know I mentioned to Jason that we sort of swapped out was like the fabric, the sort of we didn't really want to put pressure on anyone to bring anything. We were just worried that it might create a barrier if they felt like they had to bring something to show up. So one thing that we did was I had collected a bunch of seashells, and we kind of used them, sort of lined the table. And so at the beginning of the meal, we asked everyone after introductions, what is something that they're bringing to the space? And then we had them kind of write that, idea or concept on the shell. And then at the end of the dinner, we invited everyone to kind of take something that they need. So sort of think about how the conversations went and how they were feeling, and to take leadership or patience or humor sort of home with them as a memento. So that was nice. And yeah, it was really casual. I think it really worked. We had a really nice mix of ages, and I think it was great that, at least for me, I never felt that there was a real clear distinction about who was a youth, who was an adult, kind of what people's roles were. People, identified in different ways in terms of why they were there. And so I think that created just a really nice, level playing field for the evening. So yeah, it was good.
Thank you so much for sharing. Ariel, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, it was a really great event. I think I was really surprised at how engaged and open some of the conversations were around some of the questions around the toolkit. And I think it was a great event. It went really well. Laura said a lot.
Thank you so much, Ariel. Looking at the time, I'm going to move into our youth media reporter section, because we have a lot of actual useful and critical information that I want to make sure that we get out about youth media reporter. And then well, if we have time, we'll get to the symbols, and if not, I will set up the symbols for something we can do after the call, because there's an opportunity there. And so I'm just going to hold the symbols right now. But before I kick it over to Maya to talk a little bit about our special issue with Youth Media Reporter, I just want to update around communications, because we had been using a Slack channel. I think Maya and I have realized that the Slack channel just doesn't work. It's not useful to this group. I've seen it work in a variety of other spaces, but for right now, the Slack channel is just not useful for this group. And so we're just going to stop using it, because no one's really using it to begin with. But I didn't want to stop using it and then have people use it and be like, why isn't it not being used? So I just wanted to be upfront. It doesn't seem like it was a useful tool. It was an idea that we had kind of at the beginning of 2016 to see how it would work in terms of creating or facilitating conversation and connection. And it didn't seem to be used in that way for this particular community. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that if we're going to do something more collectively in a future date, we won't revive Slack as an opportunity to like move work forward, but it just doesn't seem like it's a helpful tool right now. And instead of continuing on a tool that doesn't seem too helpful, just stopping using it. So within that, I think what Maya and I are really committing to is increasing the communications that come out via our e-newsletter so that the e-newsletter becomes a little bit more frequent. Just running the analytics on our e-newsletter, people are opening it, people are reading it, people are staying in it. And it's actually, people are clicking through to things as well. So just on the back end of our end, it looks like the e-newsletter is actually a decent tool and that it's actually coming into people's inboxes and people are using it as a way to receive information. And what I'm hearing from folks just more generally is that email communications in general tend to be a little bit better for this group. That's kind of what I'm hearing overall. So that's why we're moving into kind of this e-newsletter structure on a more regular basis rather than less frequent basis to kind of hold all of that together. The e-newsletters on a monthly basis are going to be super short. I mean, just in all honesty, I don't want to like bog down with content, but it's just going to be like, hey, here's a dinner party that's coming up. Don't forget this video roundtable. Just to kind of keep that all in our own minds. Hey, Youth Media Reporter is coming out, just those kinds of things. It's all going to be very short and very simple and very clear. Are there any questions about either terminating Slack or moving towards this e-newsletter kind of strategy? Kate.
My question is, where do we subscribe to the newsletter?
Great. Now that you're on this video roundtable, you are subscribed to the news.
Perfect. So I don't need to do anything. I'm on it then.
Yeah. One thing, if you could privately send me your email, that would be great via chat or whatnot. That would be wonderful. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Great. Any other questions about either terminating Slack or the e-newsletter? I'm going to kick it on over now to Maya. Maya, because you and I have not necessarily touched bases on the video roundtable, I put together a series of questions, and so I'm going to ask you those questions, and then you can just respond to them. So the first question is, what is Youth Media Reporter?
So Youth Media Reporter is a publication that's run out of Muhlenberg College. So Jenna, she introduced herself earlier. She's on that editorial team. And so we are collaborating with them to publish a journal that's themed around this 50 State Dinner Party project.
Great. So what is the central question that we're exploring in this special issue of Youth Media Reporter?
The central question is, what are our desired features? So everybody crafts a piece. It could be video. We have video submissions, audio, visual pieces. We have essays, poems, lesson plans, articles, all crafted around what are our desired features. And people have shared their experiences, their past, what work they've done, what work they envision that they want to do. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Excellent. So approximately how many submissions have you received so far?
We have, off the top of my head, 19. At first it was 17, then up to 19. Now I think it went down to like 17 again, but we're at 17 submissions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And when is the actual publication date that we're looking at?
So it was in March, but we moved it back or forward, I guess, to April 15th. So April 15th should be the publication date.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what support do you need from this community right now in order to help make the special issue really, really pop? because I think we want to make sure that youth, adults, and elders are reading this. I know one of the things you've mentioned to me is that we have submissions from people that are like around 16, 17, all the way to 50 plus. So that's pretty spectacular to kind of see that diversity of age in publication together. So how can this community, the people on this call right now, help you make this issue pop or get the word out about it?
Yeah, I think mainly communication is a big thing. I think spreading the word, telling everybody about it, telling everybody about this journal, how it's being published, telling people about the Alliance and YMR and what work that we do. I think also, yeah, I think spreading the word would just be the biggest aspect that would help me out in terms of communications. Can't think of anything else off the top of my head, so I'm just going to say spreading the word.
One area that I want to offer out to the larger group, I think that there's a way that we can spread the word that can be innovative, right? So spreading the word, we're working on getting the visuals together for the special issues. So just to let you know that those are coming, and I know that visuals help with outreach immensely. So I don't want to like downplay that. We're also doing this whole process of creating an aesthetic for this very specific issue of YMR. And that's all inspired by Maya, which is really exciting. But kind of creating that aesthetic takes just a little bit more time. It's not like we can just throw together a flyer, right? Because we're actually looking at color palettes, we're looking at how we're actually packaging everything together in order to make it really pop. And that's just taking us a little bit longer, which is why we're pushing publication out to April 15th, because there's this specialness to it that's really beautiful. So the innovative piece for me is, do you have radio programs that you have? Do you, if you're in public access and you have a call-in show, do you know what I'm saying, about something that's coming up around desired futures or time or publication or youth media? Is there a way to, for us as a community, once this issue gets launched in April, we're gonna have another video roundtable at the end of April where we can look at this, but is there a way that we could get the authors of these articles actually on your stations or in your media or in other ways that we could be distributing pieces of content from YMR that are not just about sharing the journal at large. Like there's this one thing about sharing the journal, but then there's the actual content of that journal and the articles and the diversity of perspective that's coming from all over the country in this thing. And so just thinking about, like, if you know of something in your own organization or your own community or your own affiliations outside of your organization, once that journal drops, I think Maya and I will be more in touch with, like, how can we further this conversation and further this dialogue beyond just a single digital publication. So that's definitely something we're looking at and wanting to make sure as far as Maya, like, I think that's part of what Maya's talking about. And then also it's just like, check it out and put it in your e-newsletters and stuff like that as well. But there's this other component. We tell stories. So how can we find the stories of the journal and tell them differently and get them into different localities across the country? So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to open this up for more general conversations from folks. So does anyone have any questions for Jenna, Maya, or myself? I'm going to shoot it on over to Darcy.
You've unmuted me. Hey. So this journal is not, and we came on like a couple minutes late, but this journal is part of the ultimate project that's going to be associated with the dinner party. It's not the ultimate project.
It is, to be honest, it'll make a lot more sense when the journal comes out. I'm writing this massive post that summarizes a year's worth of collective action work, because we've had all of these simultaneous partnerships. So we have our dinner parties. The dinner parties are about local relationship building, right? And how do we help foster local relationship building? The Youth Media Reporter journal for us, special issue for us, is a snapshot at a moment in time of our network. And these are the conversations that our network is having. So some of the things that we have are like lesson plans about autoethnography. We have an alternate reality fiction story written by a 17-year-old. We have poetry written by a genderqueer San Franciscan who is who is 19, talking about his present. Or their present, sorry. So, I mean, I think we have all of these different things of people that have been affiliated with the project. At some point have come to a dinner, might not have come to a dinner. One person submitted has never been to a dinner, but found the call for articles. And it's really just a snapshot in time. And from that snapshot, what's the stories that are being told, and how can we use that snapshot to craft better stories about our desired futures? Video roundtables are another side of that. The way in which Maya and I work, the way in which we're paid, specifically paid, and the titles in which that we have is actually a component of this collective action work. So in the Youth Media Reporter Special Issue, my contribution to the journal is this massive essay, distributive list essay, that actually names every single thread in the collective action process that we've already been doing. So instead of thinking of collective action as something always forward thinking or forward future, it's also what we're doing right now. This video roundtable is building that. We're building the community nationally here. We're getting ideas seeded. We're finding ways to weave. And so for me, the YMR journal is going to continue on. So after this special issue, we actually have an intern from Princeton who's actually going to be paid to produce a second journal for us this summer. So, and that's all donated by the Princeton Alumni Association. So, which is really flipping fantastic because they actually don't do a lot of donations out to nonprofits. They just really liked our work. And so that's pretty amazing to me that this is actually going to become something that's going to be recurring, and it's just going to become snapshots of time around the conversations that are actually starting to spring up in the conversations that we're having both locally and nationally.
So I feel like I've missed the call.
Okay. The call went out in October. It went out at the October Video Roundtable. And so we set the date of closing the submission process in December for publication in April 15th. So there will be another call for submissions that will come out again, probably in May, June, once we close this issue and then onboard. Her name is Gabby, and like I said, she's from Princeton, and she's going to be leading the second round. And so there'll be a second call for submissions. Yeah. Any other questions? Excellent. I just want to kick it on over to Jenna to just hear from Jenna a little bit from the YMR side about what this has been like for you.
Thanks. Thank you both, Maya and Jason. I was taking notes, so that's why I was sort of clicking away and looking away. But I think that you shaped this special issue beautifully, and I think it's been really exciting to consider the ways that this space, the space of a sort of journal, can be reimagined in a more open, collaborative, interconnected way. Oftentimes journals are sort of, they're seen as one kind of space, and they're really dedicated to people who are professionals in the work, right? And those longer pieces that you take, the culminating pieces that you may have taken 6 months to envision and produce, and sort of taking this and thinking about youth media and the intention of youth media, right? Which is to center young people, to center these relationships, to begin to weave our work, our multimedia work together with young people. And I think that this edition really beautifully represents the kind of work youth media makers do and the kind of relationships we want to have, not just with the young people we see face-to-face or the folks we see face-to-face as colleagues, but the broader youth media field. How do we live into those kinds of relationships and that kind of celebration of work? And so it's been really just a really great experience to be on that journey with Maya and Jason and Aggie and Laura to think about how we sort of blow up the journal model and make it more collaborative and more connected.
Thank you so much, Jenna, for that context. I think that that's really important as well. So thank you. I want to talk briefly, really quickly, about two things. One is Our Desired Futures survey, and then the second one is Symbols of Our Desired Future. So I'm just going to kind of highlight them because I want to get into our closing circle, part one, so that we can then transition over to Lynn and Christian, because they have an amazing presentation that they have pulled together for everyone, and I want to make sure that we honor their time. So the first one, we have an Our Desired Futures survey. And so a couple of things. The survey should be about 5 to 10 minutes long for you to take. It's really not meant to be very long. I think one of the things for me that I've realized, again, this has kind of been a process of discovery in a lot of ways. And so one of the things that I've realized is, for me, the understanding what are our desired futures and the stories underneath that are really crucial. The dinner parties are a way to start that conversation, but they've not necessarily always been the best data collection tool for us around that. So just to kind of name that. And I think that that has allowed us to be really flexible in how we are able to be adaptive around that. So for me, in order for us to get more content and more information around our desired futures, I created a very simple 5 to 10 minute survey that is explicitly around our desired futures. And it's explicitly that question. And I'm really encouraging everyone on the video roundtables to take it. If you've hosted a dinner, if you have young people in your organization that have actually attended dinner, share the survey with them and please have them fill it out. They don't need to leave their name if they don't want to leave their name. Do you know what I mean? So that's an optional field. So it's just an opportunity for us to be able to start collecting that in a more systematic and centralized place, because the data has just been really spotty. Again, not anything bad, it's just what it is. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to be able to start getting more language for more inclusive and collective stories. And so that is the way that we're using that survey and why it's only 5 to 10 minutes, because I didn't want you to be bogged down in it. So please, if you have an opportunity to take it, please take it. Or if you know of people that have come to your dinner and you see them, please have them take it. It's meant for anyone that has in any way, shape, or form kind of touched the dinner parties at all. So just to kind of throw that out there. The second thing is our symbols of desired future. And I'm going to end up putting in, this will be in the e-newsletter that'll come out again. So just to throw that out there in March. Please have an opportunity to go through and look at the Facebook album. There are incredible, incredible symbols that we have gotten from dinner parties across the country. So this is one of the things for me that's really beautiful. We now have a visual language that's starting to develop. We don't just have this linguistic language. We actually have this visual, deeply psychological language that's starting to emerge. Some of the things that's actually emerging is that there's actual connective themes between the symbols from different dinner parties, right? Like, just a very clear example, the spiral is showing up from a variety of different dinners. What does the spiral tell us? Do you know what I'm saying? How can we make meaning? How can we understand repetition and pattern? How can we understand divergence? Those kinds of things are actually happening in our symbols, which was just kind of a plant of a seed of an idea that Maya and I had last year. So it's amazing to see that those symbols are actually being transformed into something else. If you have done the dinner parties and you have submitted the symbols, just to kind of give you a better understanding, when I receive those symbols, regardless of how they are sent to me, sometimes they're PDFs, sometimes they're JPEG images, whatever. Bye, Darcy. Sometimes I get them in that way, or whatever way I get them. I actually run them through Illustrator, clean everything up, and represent them back out to the community so that they actually look more universal. So I do a lot of back-end cleanup on the symbols that you all send me in order to be able for them to be presented in a way in which that it feels more like a unified thing. All right, so please check them out. They're really, really striking and beautiful. Leave a comment if there is a symbol that moves you, like it. Leave a comment. Do you know what I'm saying? If you see something in a symbol, you're like, this reminds me of, put that in. Do you know what I'm saying? So thinking about the ways in which we can use a Facebook album as actually data aggregator. So that's kind of a way that I'm thinking about how we're using the Facebook album. So just to kind of throw that out there, and why the album is actually the place where the photos reside. So please check that out. I am now going to enter in, there's been a lot of me talking. And so I'm going to close with a little more of me talking, and then we're going to turn it all over to Lynn and to Christian, which I'm really excited about. And so I'm actually going to open up this, this piece. So in the closing circle, this is closing circle 1. After this closing circle, we are going to transition into a presentation from Venice Arts. And so for me, I'm gonna, in the October video roundtable, we did this writing piece around the origins of the universe. And so I took everyone's, stuff that they submitted and actually turned it into a collective poem. And so I actually want to share that with you all right now. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can actually see it. When I read this poem, I'm going to read the poem out loud. And as we're reading the poem, if you have access to chat, which should be if you are in Zoom, please just leave one word or one phrase that you're going to take with you between now and the next video roundtable, which is in April. It can be any intention, does not even need to be realized, but just something as you're listening to this poem, an intention that might strike you, please leave it in chat. So I'm going to move to sharing my screen really fast. And here is the poem. And this all came from you all. I literally just recrafted your words. Born of thought and intention, an innate drive blurring light into darkness. Beautiful, amazing, violent, catastrophic. No barriers, just matter dissolving. Whatever people believe. Energy, light, love, thing, place, experience. Survive, grow, evolve. I don't know. I don't care. Opening to a possibility. What are the origins of something that encapsulates everything? I want to know, to shape and mold the present, but not more than, I want to wonder infinitely. So take a moment and please, in the chat bar, please just leave a word or a phrase of an intention that you may want to take with you. All right, as this is happening, as you're continuing to write your intentions, I'm now going to turn this all over to Christian and to Lynn from Venice Arts. I chose Venice Arts. One of the reasons that I chose Venice Arts is because they are looking at how a single organization can align their programs internally to produce media that addresses a single topic or theme. For me, I think that this has potential for how we can work across organizations and affiliations in order to tackle something bigger that any one of us can attain. But before we think that big, I want to actually hear from Christian and Lynn on what Venice Arts is doing and how they are doing it. So I'm turning this all over to them. I'm unmuting their audio and pinning them into the video spot. So you're
Hi there, we unmuted ourselves.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there, how are you? So just we have a presentation that we're going to do, and just to let you know about how Christian and I have divvied up the discussion, I'm going to give a little bit of background and context, and then we thought it would be fun to share some of the work that the kids are making through an evolving project, which I'll describe in a second, and he'll talk a bit about the successes and the challenges, and hopefully you'll see some thread through the work of the young people that we're working with. And then we will leave a couple minutes at the end for questions and answers. I'd like to share my screen. I assume I just push that button that says share screen, correct? Okay. There it is. Give me a second. All right, you see a keynote, hopefully. So just very quickly to tell you a little bit about Venice Arts, we're heading in 2018 to celebrating our 25th anniversary. And so I like to say that we were working with visual storytelling, particularly in photography, in the pre-digital age. So you have to kind of imagine that when the notion of giving a young person, especially a very marginalized young person for any number of reasons, was very unique and very powerful thing to do. One thing that has always been centered to our model is project-based learning. So without really going into that in any explicit detail, I would just say that means then that we have always in all of our classes, we run about 15 different workshops from beginning to advanced studies level over the course of an academic year, and we have a summer media arts camp as well. And every single one of those single workshops at all levels have a specific project concept that they're working towards, so that everything that they're doing, all the learning, all the kind of creative development is all headed toward the completion of this project or multiple projects. They work both collaboratively and independently as they get older. I say that because I think that kind of focus of project-based learning, and I'm guessing that a lot of you have the same kind of focus in your workshops for youth as well, really lends itself to some of the to the concept of collaborating across our organization. Because our teaching artists are already familiar with taking a kind of working from a broad concept and building their curriculum to support it. We decided that in celebrating our 25th anniversary that we really wanted to look at how to engage the young people in our programs to create work that we could show and share, and to focus on our community, which has changed in many ways. Some things changed and some have remained the same, but have changed obviously in many ways over a 25-year period. So what was different, and I will show you probably this is like our first brainstorm as a creative staff about, well, what does that mean? Venice stories, what does that mean? How do you cut it? What are all the different ways in which we can look at that? And we felt like that having kind of a broad concept was really important before we started to work with our teaching artists to engage them in developing their curriculum and their classroom-specific projects. We talked about looking at, I won't go into the smaller sub-bubbles, but the history, about issues of work and economics, about change, about art, looking at the artists. Venice has been known as Los Angeles's arts community for 50 years, 75 years, or really maybe since its inception, a very, very long time. So who are those creatives in our community, no longer in our community? What's their relationship to, what does that word community even mean, and what's their relationship to it? Coastal culture, newcomers and old timers. So, who are multi-generational people who have lived in this area for a very long time. And there's been a lot of change and transition over the last 10 years, and who are those people as well. So as a staff, we kind of looked at the areas of potential storytelling, and we met with our teaching artists, and we told them, We talked to them about celebrating our 25th anniversary, really wanting to focus in a very local way. We've done it before over the years, but to do it across all of our programs. We talked to them about this being somewhat of a more curated project than some of what they might be used to doing. That we would be, they were working with a diversity of young artists, as I say on the next slide, working in photography, film, multimedia, animation, from 10-year-olds to older teens and young adults, 19 and 20 years old. We also knew that we were dealing with some of our teaching artists are extremely experienced, and some of them are newer to us. So that we had to understand the implications that might have for a very collaborative project. We decided at the outset that we had to develop a creative concept that was broad enough that we could be focused in our intention going forward, and that was really important. That we had to kind of come into our conversations with our teaching artists with an understanding of how each class might intersect with that concept. We knew we had to dedicate more time to our teaching artists and helping them to develop their curriculum, identifying and reaching out to subjects in a much more active way than some of the programs we're used to doing. We also understood that we had to look at emerging work more frequently because we don't know yet how we're going to curate the final exhibition and film screening, but we want it to be obviously a really strong presentation of the youth's work as one part of our overarching celebration of our 25th anniversary. So it's required us to convene with a little bit more frequency to look at, well, what's being made and how come and where do we need to give direction and where can we be hands-off. Christian and his colleague, Issa, and they do this anyway, so this is kind of like an add-on, meet individually with our teaching artists to make sure that the way they're structuring their classes would really support this vision. We've held 2 artist group meetings thus far, again, as an add-on or a shift in focus, because this is a part of our process anyways, to remind people of the overarching vision for the process, talk about some of their challenges, etc. And the other thing is, I think, maybe to remind people that we're being a little bit more hands-on and directive with our teaching artists while hopefully giving them sufficient latitude to really design and create in the context of their own class. So that's kind of the broad outline. I'm going to hand it over to Christian to talk more specifically and share some of the kids' work.
Just to zoom out for a second, I mean, this is an unbelievably ambitious undertaking for our community. Never before have we had a dozen workshops with 12 to 13 students each, 3 to 4 teaching artists each, all sort of harnessing a very specific aspect of the same topic before. Herding cats comes to mind, and it's been some version of that, absolutely, but in the most kind of stimulating and exciting way. Some of those workshops are 10 to 13-year-olds grappling with the very basic mechanics of camera work, and some are our most savvy and advanced filmmakers and photographers who are most passionate about doing autobiographical content. So getting all of those people together. And the way I describe it to students and our teaching artists is that we're making a 12-piece, 3-dimensional puzzle. And the title of the puzzle is The Story of Venice. And that each workshop is responsible for one of those pieces. And they have a year in which to develop it and to produce content around it. This first workshop we're going to look at maybe 5 excerpts from 5 of those puzzle pieces today. This is from an intermediate photography workshop, and they're spending their academic year on the artist community of Venice. And primarily, these are long-term residents of Venice who've lived here through multiple socioeconomic changes in the community, and whose work, for the most part, bears a relationship to the city itself.
So let me just add one thing in. In the photo programs, one thing that we're doing is making sure minimally, whether they're very young and beginning kids or whether they're very senior and advanced kids, I love that portrait, that they're doing interviews, they're doing image series, that there are some fundamental questions that are being asked of everyone across the board. And in part, they're questions we're interested in having answered, but also it's to make sure that we have kind of a variety of content to look at as we work with the kids in developing their single projects. So they're also doing interviews with the artists and researching them, researching their background and their work.
Absolutely. There's a tremendous amount of research and knowledge gathering, interview subject curation that goes on behind the scenes. We are providing centralized support for connecting our teaching artists and our students with relevant interview subjects in a pretty unprecedented way. And we have to do that in order to make certain that 4 different workshops aren't approaching the same subject to include in their project. So we're incredibly sort of involved in connecting Venice residents with our classes. I don't know how familiar folks are on the call with Venice as a whole. You know, it's known for lots of things. It's known for Baywatch. It's known for The Doors. It's known for all kinds of countercultural moments. Skating was born here. Bodybuilding was born here, and all sorts of other things. Today, it's locally primarily known for the hyper-accelerated arrival of tech companies who have chosen Venice as a kind of a second outpost of Silicon Valley. It's called Silicon Beach, and in the last 2 to 3 years, the economic landscape of the place has changed dramatically. And so gentrification is an enormous part of our puzzle, and manages to creep its way into just about every topic that our workshops are navigating, including the longtime visual artists of Venice. They cannot help but be affected by gentrification as well. This is one workshop that's looking solely at gentrification as it's occurring in a particular housing development. It's called Lincoln Place. It was built 50 plus years ago as in affordable, equitable housing in the heart of Venice, near the beach. And in that way, it was not unique as being a place of affordable shared housing in the beach communities in that era. But that's becoming more and more rare as the economic winds are shifting. The owner of this affordable housing complex several years ago wanted to convert it all into high-end luxury, very expensive housing. There was a protracted legal battle, the result of which was that most of the development was turned over into luxury, hyper-expensive housing, with a fraction of the development preserved and untouched and crumbling for some of the original residents to remain there. So it's very dynamic and a complicated compromise. And so we have one workshop looking specifically at that, interviewing longtime residents of Lincoln Place. This is one of those residents, and behind her you can see one of the original buildings that hasn't been redone or renovated. They've also been gathering interviews with lots of newcomers and developers to produce that story of
That's your movie.
specific gentrification. Another puzzle piece that we're so excited to develop is around the history of race, class, and access to the beach, which within the American context is a rich and contentious history on every coastline. And certainly California was no different. The beaches of Venice and of Santa Monica all along the coast have been variously segregated and integrated with great civil rights fights and resistance movements occurring in these spots. Venice used to be an area there was a sliver of Venice Beach that was designated for beach recreators of color, and it was called the Inkwell. And one of our workshops is doing the history of surfers of color, and by extension, race and class on the sand. Here's it's a beginning documentary workshop. I'll show you a brief excerpt of their piece so far. Oh,
a 10-year.
No, I'm so sorry.
You want to go to it though, just given time, maybe?
What's that?
Do you think we should just scroll down to it, just given the
Yeah,
time?
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Let me skip ahead.
I am co-president of the Black Surfers Collective. The Black Surfers Collective, Black Surfing Association, I think they've both been very important in a lot of ways. First of all, they give us as surfers of color, something to belong to. When I first started surfing, there was very few, other than the brothers that I grew up surfing with, there was very few of us in the water. So when I did see another black person or even a Hispanic person, it was pretty remarkable. And so having something to belong to is kind of important, to where you don't feel like you're alone all the time.
The audience.
It's okay.
I was just a young person like your students here when I started skating and surfing. So I didn't know a lot of the history. I knew some of the history of the civil rights movement because I grew up in it, but I didn't know the past history of what had gone on in the coastal areas. And so to learn about that history through my time in the Black Surfing Association, to find out what had happened along the coastal areas and to know that we're still here and we're making our presence known on the beach made me feel pretty good.
We have to apologize. Our video obviously isn't running, so you could hear the audio, but
Yeah.
what can we say? I don't know why our video wouldn't run.
Yeah, some playback issues, but you get the sense. And so that workshop in particular, it's a wonderful example of the challenges and triumphs around navigating these topics. This is a group of 12 to 14-year-olds who meet on Saturday afternoons, and they're for the most part intermediate students with some beginners as well in the workshop. And they had a real challenge trying to find people who could speak on this topic of the history of Black surfing and Latinos' fight to gain acceptance and access to the beach. And so they cast about for a few weeks with my help And eventually they found this, this group of people who were dedicated to preserving that history, the Black Surfers Collective. And once they managed to find an ally within that collective, the floodgates opened up on the topic, so to speak. And they've had now 5 interviews, and the students have been able to go out and learn surfing, to bring their GoPros to the beach, and to have this amazing experience. It's just been so wonderful. Adjacent to that workshop is another that's looking at the history of skate. Dogtown and Z-Boys is just one example of how fundamental Venice is to the history of skateboard culture. So these are beginning photographers, 10 to 13 years old, who are looking at skating, past, present, future. Probably, I would say that there's an emphasis on diversity of skaters within that. And they're learning portraiture and learning how to pursue a subject. And for them, it's been such a rich experience. And, through this project development, the students are, you know, without being fully conscious of it, I think, in all cases, picking up profound skills in image making, in critiquing their own and each other's work, in building a coherent body of work. It's unbelievably impressive. This is another group of 10 to 13-year-old beginning photographers. They're looking at a particular corridor central to the tiny city of Venice. They're learning about portraiture as they meet some of the characters who've been here for a long time, as well as some of the newcomers.
$11:22.
Okay. So this is our advanced photography workshop. They're looking at old timers. I don't know how, I'm sure they don't use that word with the subjects of these.
Long timers.
Right, yeah, that's a much better word, yes, absolutely. And these are people who have lived lifetimes in these neighborhoods and have seen profound changes here. Many of these folks, for instance, are engaged in struggles to remain here in the face of outrageously inflating expenses and property value taxes and things like this. This man's name is Pallone, and he's been affiliated with Venice Art in various ways
Since we started. Yeah.
Since we've started. It's remarkable. Just a few portraits. And like Lynn mentioned earlier, each of these images is attached to a whole series of work, as well as rich interviews that include not only autobiographical stuff, but really stuff about their perception of their community. All of which is going to piece together ultimately into this vast three-dimensional puzzle of the Venice neighborhood. I'm going to attempt to play this. I'm going to make it smaller and see if that helps the bandwidth issue. This is Deborah Padilla. She's the executive director of a nonprofit here in Venice called Spark that deals with political art and graphics.
That Venice was gradually changing and that you had this influx of people that were coming, and that automatically you would think that it would be the immigrant community, in that immediate idea that it would be the immigrant community that they were the recently arrived, and in truth, it's not. You know, when you think about Venice and Santa Monica, particularly on the west side, we have the largest population of Oaxaqueños outside of Oaxaca. And it's a very rich culture. Spark is very committed to making sure that this community, that we have not abandoned them and that they have a place to illuminate their history, their story, their culture.
Yeah, yeah. We're at 11:25. There's much more we could talk about and show and share, but we definitely do want to leave some moments for questions. So with that, we thank you for the opportunity to share a bit about this vast and ambitious project that we're working on, and look forward to your questions.
All right, so does anyone have questions for our wonderful folks? Kate.
So this is amazing. It's really incredible, and I guess it's just more of a statement about kind of hearing the process of how you were thinking of creating the project and how it's kind of holistically guided itself through these conversations you've been having over a long period of time. I think it's really inspiring, and we're about to hit our 50th year, and we've been thinking like, how do we address this moment? How do we address the massive changes in our communities? So I think it's awesome. This is really inspiring, and I can't wait to tell people in my organization about this. And I also wanted to mention this project, which I don't think is nearly as like amazing as the work you all are doing, but it's pretty cool. It's produced by an organization called Union Docs, based in Brooklyn, New York.
And DOCS? DOCS?
Mm-hmm. Union Docs, yep. And they've been doing a project called Los Suras for, I think, the past 5 years. But it's similar. It's interesting in that they have a lot of different production workshops that are all working on telling one story about this community from multiple different angles. And I think they have that work online. It's pretty interesting, but I don't think it's gone as deep as your work has, where you're like following individual communities over a period of a year as it transitions really closely with young people behind it. So I'm just like super stoked, really excited. Can't wait to share it. And Oakley wants to see the pictures bigger sometime. He was really excited about the light in them and was like, hey, wait, they're too small, they're disappearing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Feedback, and we'll check out Union Docs as well. That might be something that would be great to share with our kids. We're always showing them work by others, both by other young people as well as professional filmmakers and photographers.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, not represented here, our comics workshop is looking at the prehistory of Venice, when a lot of it was wetlands, from the perspective of pterodactyls. So we're looking forward to seeing that as well. Prehistory,
like
yes.
10 million years ago.
I think we have time for one more question. Does anyone else have a question or a comment that they would like to offer? All right. I just personally want to say thank you so much to the two of you, Lynn and Christian. I think you have really given a lot of people a lot of different things to think about, which is really lovely. So thank you. And so I just really, really, really appreciate that. And I'm really excited to see how the seed of what you have shared here can actually be taken, adapted, remixed, reused, innovated on, iterated, all those kinds of things across our network, just kind of in general. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
I do want to close. We have 1 minute until 11:30 my time, a variety of times across the country. But I do want to offer everyone an opportunity to vote. Like, we started with everyone being able to vocally offer something into space, and so it's really important that everyone also now have an opportunity to vocally offer something in space in order to close, even though we're virtual. So I think I just want to have it be one word. Could be an insight, could be anything really, but just kind of one word that is sitting with you right now. And I'm gonna, again, facilitate this part. So I'm gonna kick it first to Kate in Oakley.
You have one first?
Yeah, intriguing.
Stay.
Thank you so much. I'm now gonna kick it over to the other Kate.
Puzzle. The puzzle pieces are really sticking with me. I love that.
Thank you, Kate. I'm going to have Lynn and Christian be the last one, so I'm going to kick it to Lucia.
Curiosity.
Thank you. Ariel. Are you still with us, Ariel? All right. How about you, Jamil?
A phrase. Thank you, Jason, of course, and even Lynn and Christian. I appreciate you. I feel like I've been inspired as well. This whole gentrification thing is real right now, so I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jamil. And then 267, whose name I did not write down, remarkably. Perfect. All right. So how about Lynn and Christian, a word or an insight or something you want to share in closing?
A hyphenated word, cross-fertilization.
Grateful.
I'm hopeful. I really am. I think we have this dominant narrative about how our world is falling apart. And I don't necessarily believe that that dominant narrative is real. And so in spaces like this, I think it's really important that we see each other and witness the incredible work that we're doing, because we're not the dominant narrative. And I just really appreciate all of you being here today. So thank you all. It is 11:32, and I want to honor everyone's time. So thank you so much for an amazing, amazing video roundtable, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.